This is Mobile Agent TV, helping agents stay on the cutting edge from coast to coast.
Welcome to Season 3 of Mobile Agent TV. I am Michael Thorne of RE/MAX Little Oak Realty in Langley, BC, and my co-host, as always, is Dave Falkware from Bridgewater, New Jersey's RE/MAX Preferred Professionals in the Enviro Realty team. Dave, what is special about today?
My birthday.
It is your birthday. Happy birthday, Dave. Thank you so much for doing this with me. 3 years now, Dave. I mean, I guess officially started the year. We started, I think, in February of 2012, but this is start of season number, I guess 2013. This is season 3 for us, Dave. We didn't have a Christmas episode, but want to thank you very much for going along this journey. It's been awesome. It's been super fun, and just want to say thank you to you.
Thank you. You too. And season 3, it's going to be like Rocky. Be like, season 6, season 7. We're going to be around that long. This is really bizarre. Season 3, man.
It is. It is a little bizarre. 77 episodes.
Season 3.
Yeah. During the broadcast, you can interact with us live on Twitter using the hashtag MATVLive, as well as you can get us on Twitter at MobileAgentTV, as well as we have the Q&A feature enabled on the show. So if you have any questions about the topic we're going to be talking about today, feel free to go ahead and throw them into the Q&A. You can ask questions about Dave on his birthday. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those. Rebar Camp. I'll be at Rebar Camp in Calgary next week. I'm doing a session there on Bomb, as well as moderating a discussion on paperless. So if you're there, swing by and say hi. Would love to meet you. As well as I'll be up at the Banff Western Conference at July 30th and 35th up in Banff. I will be doing a panel on video, as well as doing a great presentation, on social media and the way to be using it the right way. A lot of things we're going to be talking about on today's show with today's guest. And while we're up at Banff, we're going to be doing a live show with Terry Conrad's going to sit in and play a bit of the role throughout the show that Dave will. We're going to try to connect with Dave, but if we don't, Terry will sit in there. We're going to have Jeff Turner, Bill Matter, and hopefully a couple other special guests that we are going to announce. We don't have a time nailed down yet, so if you do want to sign up, go to mobileagenttv.com, sign up for our video newsletter. We'll let you know exactly when we're going to be on the air, probably in the next 48 hours. Just a reminder to all the RE/MAX agents that are headed out to our RE/MAX R4, which is just around the corner. Dave and Vanessa's session on how to infuse your listing presentation with WOW will go 2:30 to 3:30 on Monday. And then my session, social media, the wrench doesn't make a good mechanic. The nuts and bolts, I'm going to be real with a lot of people. On Wednesday goes 2:30 to 3:30, as well as Dave and I hope to make a special announcement about Mobile Agent TV and RE/MAX R4 here next week or the following week after that. Want to give a big shout out to Bruce Johnson, friend of the show, Bruce Johnson, on a very personal note. I had an incident in my family over the holidays and into January that happened down in Costa Rica. The only person I could think of that would help me that I knew down there was Bruce. Bruce, thank you very much for everything you did for me and my family. I appreciate it. The RE/MAX family is amazing. I just reached out to someone, and we could all do that with each other, reach out and willing to help. I'm always amazed at how amazing this RE/MAX family is. So, Bruce, thank you very much. On to today's show. Today's guest is Seth Price from Playster. And as always, we read out our guest 160 Twitter bio. You can get him on Twitter at SethStuff. It reads, work at Playster marketer, speaker, evangelist, passionate startup guy, play, happy husband, father, and lover of all things cooked and crafted. Welcome to the show, Seth.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm super psyched to be here, and Dave as well.
Seth, we have, I think, a great topic to start out the new year on. We're going to be talking about humanizing the digital experience, what agents should be doing to humanize the experience online for their past, present, and hopefully future clients. On that note, I know your history in the real estate space. Give us a quick overview of Seth Price history when it comes to real estate.
Got it. So I could go back a decade and a half when I was living in New York, and I did a ton of real estate development where I would help businesses find commercial spaces, either negotiate very long leases, help install their businesses, do build out, that kind of real estate development. I was an agent for about 5 years in the mid-2000s, and throughout that entire time I have had a technology background. So I'm not an engineer, but I know enough HTML, CSS, and Java to be dangerous, and fortunately I work with a team of engineers that can actually build things.
And now you've moved into Playster, your role with Playster. Just quickly give people an overview. Almost everyone in our real estate industry has heard of Playster. I think some people don't know exactly what you do all the time because of your ability to humanize an experience online. But what is it, nuts and bolts, that Playster does in the real estate industry?
Yeah, so Playster is the easiest platform for a real estate professional to launch and market themselves, starting with a website and then connecting that website to whatever other tool that they might be using. So if you think about the past, one would choose a website, it would be hard to launch, you'd probably needed a developer, and most likely once you made some decisions you were locked into that and you had sort of a legacy system that trapped you. And the future of technology, with the commoditization of all the tools from hosting to being able to engineer sort of efficiency in technology, we're now able to do that at a price point that makes it like a no-brainer. So, websites at this point, you need to be online. Consumers are online. And if you're not in a way that they can engage with you, i.e. in all the mobile devices, you're missing out on the conversation.
Melanie just posted, Dave, happy birthday, Dave. Absolutely, Seth. And then so let's get into that idea. We hear a lot about online leads. And then I hear people say, well, every lead is an online lead, which I tend to believe too. Maybe not repeat and referral business, that's not necessarily a lead. But isn't, in some sense, whether it comes through Trillia or Zillow or another way, the fact that people are going to do the research, Google who you are, consume a little bit about your personality online, therefore isn't everything coming in 2015 in some manner an online lead?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to think about it is there used to be a linear path from the consumer deciding that they were interested in something, finding some information, and getting to the source of, the buying decision. And you mentioned before we started that zero moment of truth. Well, now the touch points are so many and in so many different channels, so many different devices. People sit with multiple devices when they're watching TV. I think the most recent stat is before a consumer purchases, they consult 12 pieces of content, and that just changes the game. So it means that not only do you need reviews on Google and reviews on Zillow and reviews on Realtor, you also need content so people can understand who you are as a human, what you stand for. You still need to shake hands, kiss babies, go to events. It's got to be the whole package. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach anymore.
And that's funny because throughout the history, I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years, Dave a lot longer, is we used to get a chance to sit down in front of the consumer and then tell them our value or give them that stuff. Well, you don't get a chance to sit down in front of the consumer unless you have those 12 pieces of content for them to see on their own time. I quite often sit down with a consumer who has reached out and said, please come and help us sell our home. They already know who I am, and the conversation has dramatically changed face-to-face over the last 12 years because of that. So on that note, why do agents, why should they, or why do they have to humanize that experience online, and what does it mean to humanize a digital experience?
Yeah, so I think there's a few pieces to that. One is so if you're a real estate professional, there's a whole bunch of people like you, right? There's a whole bunch of people that have the same goal to either help someone sell or buy a house. How do you differentiate yourself from every person in the room that might be wanting to do the same thing? And so we do that by who we are as a human, and what I mean by that is there's a unique value that you have that's different than Dave. Now, in the end, you guys can still help someone sign that P&S, right? That's a given. But the way you interact is probably going to resonate with a certain group of people probably different than Dave is. And it used to be that we would hide that information. We would wait for the person to call, get them on phone duty or however you got them, then you do your spiel, you drive around, tour them a bunch of houses, build relationship, have coffee, have a beer, you now have a potential customer. Now you have to do that online first. You have to reveal your best attributes, the sort of subject matter expertise that you generally used to save, like how you deal with mortgages, how you deal with title insurance, like all the stuff, the tips and the tricks, that now needs to be presented online so people can go, oh my God, this guy really knows what he's talking about, and he writes and he speaks in a language that I can relate to.
Dave has something that he runs through. Dave has a phenomenal, Dave and Vanessa have a phenomenal listing presentation. And Dave said to me one time when we were chatting about his listing presentation, he says, this is the criteria that whether the content makes it into my listing presentation or not. It either differentiates myself from somebody else,
yeah,
it either educates the consumer, or it adds value. That's a perfect way that everything you do online has to at least check one or hopefully multiple of those boxes. And what you're saying is you have to differentiate online through education or through adding value. And that's clearly what Placer's done online, because your visibility and reputation and value online is phenomenal. But isn't that what people need to do now? Is to say what am I putting out has to differentiate, educate, or add value to?
Yeah, I mean it's hard work, right? It's like growing any business is a challenge, and it used to be you could just throw money at the problem. You could do banner ads, you'd certainly convert, maybe the lead quality wouldn't be so great, but it worked. Now people are numb. We call it content shock, right? There's an opportunity to consume a piece of content every millisecond of the day, and you still wouldn't put a dent in to the content that's being created. So if that's the case, how do you shift from just being someone who's lost in the sea of everything else that's created to being something that's really special? And there's two ways to approach that. You really need to understand the needs, pains, and desires of your special niche that you target. So, and that can be quantified by geographic location, demographic, financial, like all of those things sort of quantify who those people are. And then you need to figure out how do you provide immense value, not just average value, like when you go on a site, it's like the average checklist, but something so special that that person says, oh my God, I need to save this, and I need to share it with my sister because she has the same problem. That's where the sweet special sauce is at this point.
You can apply that to any business. It's not just real estate.
Oh yeah, it's universal. Yeah, every business is dealing with the same challenges right now, which is the cost of creating is basically zero. Like everyone is a content creator. So if that is the case, like even my mother, right? She has an Instagram account, and she probably has 2,200 photos on Instagram. It's crazy, but she's got a following, and so she's a publisher. How do you compete with that? And how you compete with that is understanding and solving the pains of your customers better than anybody else can do it. And you have to do that in a giving way, because no longer can we do it behind a paywall. Because that used to be the thing. It's like, hey, I've got this great stuff. You can't see it until you give me all your information or give me some money. Now it's got to be upfront, because that's the decision-making point that we as consumers are using to go, oh, I trust this person. They've given me value. I'm now willing to have a conversation with them.
And what I find interesting when it comes to real estate is it's really clear how to humanize the experience. How does IKEA humanize the experience about buying a couch? You know, it's a couch, it's a big warehouse, but real estate is by nature a very human experience. So to humanize it, I think is fairly easy, because at some point during the transaction, it will become very face-to-face, very belly-to-belly, very still put them in your car. So humanizing that experience in real estate probably is a lot easier than a plumbing warehouse or something like that. So on that note then, Seth, we all have had bad experiences online when it comes to customer experience, when it comes to the humanization of the experience. Why then, if we all know what a bad experience online is as agents, why do we as an industry turn around the other way, forget that, and try to provide the same junky, non-human experience? Like, if we know what it's like to get poor marketing, why as an industry do we provide that same poor marketing? What is it? What's the disconnect?
It's the challenge is that it's a commitment, and it's a commitment that doesn't have ROI in the 24 hours that you do it. So if we think about content, to build an audience with content takes 2 years. Right? To really build an audience with content takes 2 years of consistent content creation that you may not be able to attribute to a sale in that 2-year period. But if you make that commitment, you will reap amazing benefits. But it's really hard for a lot of people to, when they do their strategic planning for their business, to go, hey, we're going to do this thing to lay the foundation for this community that we want to build that are going to be our customers and our referral customers. We're going to do this thing. We can't count on money from that. So what generally happens, because most people in the real estate profession are independent, right? They're entrepreneurs, is rent's got to be paid, right? So you lean your interest and your activities to the thing that's going to like keep the lights on. And that's where the biggest disconnect is. It's an investment in the future that's hard for people to do.
Dave, I mean, we've talked about this all the time, transactional versus building a business. I think that's the differentiating factor in a lot of things we've talked about the last 2 years, by the way. 2 years of putting out consistent content, Dave, you and I. We could have given up after episode 3, but now Seth says that now when's the rewards start coming in. But Dave, on that note, I mean, it's over and over and over again getting out of a transitional mindset and building a business. Is that not what it all comes down to, Dave?
That's exactly what it comes, in my opinion, and I've said that before. Seth just said it. I think, Michael, you asked about why the industry does what they do. Real estate agents by nature are like, they just want instant results, you know, and maybe the age group coming up, I'm going to profile them here, but millennials coming along, getting in our business, they want instant gratification, right? I mean, you know, Seth said it, it's a long-term thing. The business that we have, it didn't happen overnight. I've been 35 years to get to where we got, and when we're going to keep building it, doing the things we're talking about here, and for Mobile Agent TV, I wouldn't be talking about a lot of this stuff, and the people we've talked to. But absolutely, it's long-term. You got to put your head down and get to work, and understand it's not going to happen, you know, overnight. It's just not.
I think a lot of people are so attracted to the concept of an overnight success, right? We look at Shark Tank or we look at whatever those shows are, and we think that it's just going to happen. We're going to be a star in whatever thing we're doing right away. But the reality is when you study whoever has gotten success, they've put in their 10,000 hours plus to get where they've gotten. And you just don't get to see that, because the blood and the sweat is not the stuff we put on Facebook or Twitter. It's the, hey, things are great. But there's a lot of work. You can be very strategic about it. You can be smart. You can be efficient. But it doesn't deny the fact that you've actually got to do some stuff to get to that point.
Seth, you had a great interview on Conversations That Matter with Terry Conrad. Fantastic interview. I think it was one of her most recent episodes. And in that, you talked about exactly what you're talking about right now, making a commitment. You have to go up to the people in Playster or whoever else is on there and say, guys, this is what we need to do. We're going to put a lot of time and effort into it. We're not going to see the rewards for 2 years. And bang, everyone today knows Playster for the exact reason that you add tremendous value. I will never, ever delete an email from Playster without reading it. It brings constant, consistent value to me as a business person. What is that mindset? Do you just go into that meeting going, I know it in my bones, this is the right way to do it? Is it trends that you see changing? What was it that you set, that you went in your gut and knew this was the right strategy for Playster?
So I'd say part of it is, one, I had experienced it before. So the company that I ran sales and marketing for was in a very different industry. We sold data breach services to the real estate industry. We created a lot of white papers and research papers that allowed the niche that was interested in what we did, we gave them away to them, and we built our subject matter expertise. So that worked. Translate forward to 5 years ago, part of it is being scrappy. We were a startup. We didn't have a lot of funds. We could not effectively spend money on advertising. We were a very small team, and I knew that if we made a commitment and we didn't stop, we would be able to build an audience and build trust in an industry that didn't know us. And that is, there's a few ways to do it. Some people do it by speaking, right? They're just out and about and they build a relationship. Some people write books. I mean, there are lots of different ways that you can do this. You can leverage fame, you can leverage previous success, but we knew that if we could create value for the folks that might be our customers and just not stop doing it, that we would find a way to create a product that was a good fit for the consumer.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I think it was when Jay Baer was on the show too as well. He said a couple of things. He goes, provide value that for free that people will be willing to pay for. I mean, and that's clearly what Placer's done is to do that, and the importance of educational marketing. I think that's really what it all comes down to, Dave. I mean, you guys are looking at educational marketing. I know in 2015 you're going to try to educate the consumer in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Dave? I think Dave dropped out.
I couldn't hear what you said. You're breaking.
Dave's frozen there.
Okay. All right. Dave, no, just talking about Jay Baer and the fact that he said, that educational marketing is the key moving forward, and you've sort of embraced that. You and Vanessa say, let's educate our potential consumer out in Bridgewater so they know exactly what it's like when they go ahead and work with me. I still don't have Dave. All right. Happy birthday, Dave.
Well, that's all right. I can.
Yeah.
Let me. I can actually address that because I want to be clear that it's not just education. It could be entertainment. It could be. It just has to be some form of value into your audience, and you need to be consistent. And without the consistency and without understanding the pain points, desires, and inspiration of your consumer, there's a disconnect. But if you can figure those things out and just not stop, you will build an audience and you will build a relationship with those folks.
Okay, on that note, Seth, the biggest question I'm going to ask you today, maybe the one that has an impossible answer, but any light you can shed on it, we'd appreciate it. What is it that the consumer wants that is the humanized digital experience? What is it, if we could do the roadmap backwards, if we knew the destination, what is it in 2015 does a consumer want from a real estate agent?
Uh-oh, you're going to have to repeat that question because
am I cutting out too as well? All right.
No, Michael, it's you that are cutting out. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're cutting out.
Okay. Seth, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, this is going to play awesome on the podcast. Big question to ask you, Seth. If we were to work backwards on the roadmap from the consumer back to what we need to do.
I don't know why it's cutting out. Is it me?
No, it's me.
Michael.
It's me.
The internet.
Dave, did you hear my question?
Yes.
Can you say it to Seth for me, please?
Seth, what do you want to know?
I'm so sorry, guys. I couldn't hear that question.
It's me.
Seth, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Seth? Can you hear me? Dave? Seth, can you hear Dave? No, I don't think.
No, I can't actually. Dave, I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, so Michael asked. He said, "This one thing that the online consumer is looking for, the humanized part of it. If you could, in the future, kind of go back to now, what would be that one thing that they're looking for that's going to help humanize this thing to make them kind of connect with you?" I think I got that right, Michael, all right?
Yeah, so there's no one-size-fits-all answer across the board because the thing to really consider, so I'll use a non-real estate example. If you are a certain type of doctor, so let's say you are a podiatrist, right? So you're someone who helps fix people's feet. There is there are things that are consistent with the audience that comes to you that you can see in your customer base, and pains and information that they have when they're searching for a solution, that you just need to figure out what that solution is and be able to provide it better than anybody else. A friend of mine who does SEO, like I say, we just had a conversation with Rand Fishkin. You guys know Rand from Moz?
Yep.
So he was talking about unique value in content. And one of the things that we were discussing was that the need to go really deep, almost to the point of interviewing your customers. Like, you know, we relate to people online with social. You could just troll social and look at all the questions that people ask that are like your consumer, and you could figure out what is the thing that they're looking for, or things that they're looking for, and you could create a consistent dialogue to answer those things. Social is the best research tool in the world to figure out what consumers are complaining about and what challenges them.
Well,
So-
it says, Seth, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Perfectly.
Awesome. On that note, I love how these shows sort of dovetail into each other. On that note, I want to talk about the difference between simply posting links to that sort of answering those questions, or being having a voice in it. In Canada, and this week, the Bank of Canada lowered the overnight lending rate a quarter point down to 0.75. In the States, it might not matter. Here, it was shocking and big news. What does that mean? Why would they do that? All that sort of stuff. I can simply take an article from the National Post and put it online and have my consumer read about it. Or, like a great agent in Alberta, Kelly Scarr, he quickly gathered up a couple mortgage brokers, got on the Google Hangout, and put out the exact same answers with his face on it.
Yeah.
What is different, and what should agents be aware of, the difference between simply just taking content and reposting it, opposed to being the voice in the content?
So I'm not 100% opposed to content curation, which is what you're referring to, where you take other people's content and then curate the most important stuff and feed it to your audience. I think it's a great tactic to use as part of a broader strategy, especially if you can't create a ton of content. I'm more interested in not trying to be everywhere at once, and I would say create less content, make it so exceptional that your team and your friends and the clients you give it to think it's the best thing they've ever seen. Or that's one tactic, and that's a tactic that I'm really bullish on. The other tactic is what Kelly does. Kelly is a video. He's been so consistent with video that people expect to see his head talking about a topic. And you can't, there's not a topic that goes by that he doesn't try and produce a video to represent it. So we now think of Kelly as the video guy who has a show. He's serialized the way in which he distributes content, and his customers expect to see it that way. So it's really just it's a strategy. You have to decide as a business owner, what's your sweet spot, what are you inspired to do, commit to it, and don't stop. Just like you guys did with this show, 70 episodes in, you've now got amazing traction with the show, you've got a listenership with the show, and you pick something and you do it consistently. This is not the only thing that could be done, but it's just one. You guys chose it, it works.
Absolutely, and the other point is, I know that Playster does this too, does a lot of curation of here's 4 topics you should be aware of, but adds a paragraph or so of their opinion of it, or their voice, or why it's important, or I mean, adding your 2 cents, just not cut and paste link. I think people, the only way they're going to connect to you if they know what your opinion of that content is. I think that's important to add your 2 cents on.
Yeah, well, there's another aspect of that. So I agree with you. There's another reason to curate content is to create relationships with the other content creators. So one of the things that we do is I have lists of people that create content that I respect what they do. They're in the industry, some are out, but I call that influencer marketing. It's like I know who they are, I see them at conferences, we say hello, we know each other on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, and if they promote something, I want to be their biggest fan, right? That's how you build relationship. You have friends in your neighborhood, they're doing something cool, you want to go support them. This is the same thing, just done online.
And that's what, Dave, how many amazing relationships out of the last 2 years? I mean, just amazing relationship after amazing relationship after amazing relationship. I talked at the top of the show, Bruce Johnson, offline, outside the real estate industry, built a relationship and added value to my life. It is shocking how many real relationships there are. There's so many ways we can go with this. One of the things about I see people post online 5 dream kitchens or that sort of stuff. And I was actually on a call with an agent out in Eastern United States last week, and why can't Dave curate the 5 best kitchens in Bridgewater under 500,000 and put it on a little link and send that link out, opposed to
Without a doubt.
eye candy for kitchens? Why couldn't it be your neighborhood's eye candy?
Yeah.
Because you don't really care if someone in California reads it or someone in Texas. Dave only really cares if someone in New Jersey, in the areas that he works, looks at it. So providing that hyper-local content is something that, like Nabu Hada said, gives something they can't Google, something that Zillow and Trulia and these companies will never, ever be able to provide.
Yeah.
It's so local. So speak to localization of that content.
Without a doubt. So I love that tactic of creating curated list or perspectives of the I'll call it the inventory that you have at your disposal. I mean, one of the things that agents and brokers have that not a lot of other industries have is you have content that's unique, that's constantly changing. The properties on the market today. So if you want to see an example of a large portal that does this very well, go to Curbed, CURBED.com. I call it real estate porn, right? They take the most beautiful homes in a specific geographic area, or it can be the most expensive homes, or it could be the smallest homes, or the ugliest homes, or the homes that have been on the market the longest, the most beautiful pools. You take an attribute that's interesting to you and to your audience, and you curate that, put that on your own site. Now, the reason to do it on your own site is that search engines, they like unique content. They're just like consumers, right? And that's why Facebook has lowered the reach of just any random post that you put up there, because they're trying to create relevancy. It's why Google constantly updates their algorithms, is because they want you to be able to trust the content that you're consuming that's put in front of you when you do a search. We have to treat our consumers the exact same way. We have to give them really interesting and relevant information. And I would go so far, don't share anything that you're not super interested in or excited about. Like, if it's not wowing you, why do you think it's going to wow your customers? And to go back to the local piece, to be discovered on local, okay, so there's a whole bunch of SEO stuff you can do. But what's really cool about being unique with local is that the properties in your geographic area, Mike, are different than Dave's. And so the things that you're going to share, when there's a search query, there's no competition between you guys. Like, your stuff is so unique, and once you figure out who your consistent buyer or seller is, you can target that content. So when those people are searching, your list blog, or call them listicles, right? Your list post will show up for the best houses between 100 and 250K, or whatever your price point is. That's what you want to do with that type of content.
And Dave, you could curate a little list on your website that said the top 5 homes under 500 grand for foodies, and and one of them happens to be one of your listings, and 4 happen not to be, or whatever it is. But then they're on your site, they're looking at real estate. It goes on, because we've all seen those, the top 5 patios, but they're just throughout North America, and one of your homes, Dave, is never, ever going to make that list. But if you make it local, you can put one of your homes on that list all the time. And will other people share it? Local foodies might, saying, here's 5 great kitchens locally. I think it's a fantastic strategy.
Yeah, it's great.
I've done it on my community, that Hillsborough community page. I just put up unique stuff that's just about Hillsborough and the people there, and that's why I get engagement from it, because these people all live in that same little town. It's not really that little, but there's interaction there. And I put up whatever seems to be of interest, and I don't even really live there anymore. So
But you do business there, though, I assume.
Oh, yeah. We do a fair amount of business there. I used to live there, so I know everybody. I know the mayor. I mean, so yeah, it absolutely works. That's
And
why I get engagement.
you can take that technique and expand it to influencer marketing, right? So same geographic focus, and you can go, hey, the top 10 burger joints in pick the town, right? Or the top 10 hiking spots in your town, the top 10 places to propose, whatever the list is.
I got the most engagement on that site by saying this simple thing. What's your favorite pizza place in Hillsborough? There's 22 of them there.
Yeah.
Pizza places everywhere. It was, I don't know, I probably had 100 replies and people with their opinions, and just from that pizza.
Yeah.
It works.
So it's about being relevant. I look at those things at different parts of the funnel, right? If you're not talking about real estate, to me that's the top of the funnel, right? Because those people aren't necessarily going to convert. They might, but not necessarily. They're not searching. They're not closer to that zero moment of truth. And then as you get closer to, the best, housing deals between a price point 450 or best 4 beds between 450 and 500, you're now lower in that funnel. Someone looking for that or doing that search, they've already narrowed down sort of their criteria. They're closer to making a decision. So depending on how you're doing your strategy, you want to make sure you have a mix of fruits and vegetables, right? You want to have the stuff that gets high-level engagement about pizza. That's at the top of the funnel. You want to work your way down to start talking about the most expensive houses in your town ever, right? That's a little lower in the funnel. It's about real estate, but not necessarily people buying and selling. You get further down in the funnel, you want to talk about actual criteria that people might be searching for, whether that be pools or 4 beds or close to schools, whatever the thing is, that when they get in the car with you to do a tour, they're asking you that same question. You should answer that online before they get to you so they know that you're the guy that has that answer.
Absolutely. In fact, we're just starting season number 2 of our local web show called Fraser Valley 5. That's the neighborhood I live in, and we count down the top 5 in 5 minutes. The top 5 independent coffee shops, the top 5 outdoor patios, whatever it is. And about the content curation, you put a restaurant that says, here are the top 5 patios in our neighborhood. The first thing that restaurant does is share it out to their
without a doubt.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's just an amazing way of putting reach out, and the show is all branded with Remax. It's all branded with their team stuff, but they put out that content, so they become the distribution to there and validate the content for you. And it's been an amazingly successful strategy. Only, I think we're like 10 episodes in or something like that. Yeah. Because we're shining the light not on us, but on
someone else.
And that's what I want to talk about. That, Seth, the idea of differentiation. A lot of people find in a real estate business, the best way to differentiate yourself is to say, I'm #1 in sales, or I'm holding a phone and a dog on my bus bench ad. That's not the differentiation you're talking about, because that is all about, you should buy from me because I'm awesome. That doesn't work anymore. I don't think it does. So if that's not what you mean by differentiating, Seth, what is it that agents should be doing in 2015 that is the right way to differentiate yourself?
So I always like to put on the consumer's hat, and I call it the empathetic view. We've all been, if you're in this business, you bought a house, you rented a house, you've sold a house, you've experienced that thing, and there is some differentiation that happens with people that give you value or just waste your time. And we know that all the time. Let's say you go into Home Depot, and occasionally they have those people in Home Depot that are trying to tell you about the tool or whatever. You don't really care about that tool. You need an elbow joint for the plumbing under your sink because your house is being ruined. So 2 different things. The person who can help me find that thing the fastest and choose the best one, most valuable human being on the planet. The person that tries to tell me something that I'm not interested in at that particular moment, that person is not only not interesting to me, but I probably never want to talk to them again. And that's the difference between differentiation. How can you provide value to the consumer in such a way that they are moved and they go, honey, that guy went out of his way, or he created something that's so valuable, I would have paid for it. I got to remember that dude.
Dave, isn't that the best 2 minutes of our show? Like that is. I've never really thought about it that way. About at the right time, someone is vastly more important because of what they can, the value they're providing.
Yep.
That I mean, it's too long because Twitter's only 140 characters, but that last little rant is a tweetable or something that people should really take in. I think that's a great analogy of the value that the one guy just cares about selling the drill that day.
Yeah.
And one guy says, what can I do to help you make your day better?
That's right.
Dave.
It's all about serving the client, and you're not really serving them if you're giving them a bunch of garbage or you're just trying to sell them. It's just serve them. The rest of the stuff will come behind you. It'll all sort of fall into place. To me, it's almost like buying a car.
Yeah.
I mean, you go into a car dealer, and most car dealers, this is the way it is in the Northeast, they're giving you stuff you're not asking about. They're leading you down some path, and it's obvious as hell that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you can stand it. It's painful. But once in a while, you hit a car guy, and he just kind of asks you some general questions, sees what you're looking for, shows you all of the stuff on the car. Wes and I are looking for a car now, so it's a new experience.
Yeah.
We're experiencing it right now. And the minute they just sort of back up and just kind of let us go with it, we walk out and go, that's the guy I'm buying the car from right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that car because this guy, he's not beating me up. And that's exactly what it is in real estate, because I guess it's a hard concept for old real estate agents who have been doing this forever to put your arms around.
Well, the thing that
way of doing business.
The thing that has changed is the value of your reputation is so much more important today than it was before. 10 years ago, you could be a jerk on one part of town and the other side of town wouldn't know about it. Now, if you do some bad transactions, it will end up on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, Google, Yelp, whatever, and it will be very difficult to overcome that. And there's a great book that I like by this guy named Bob Berg, and it's called The Go-Giver. And the concept is all of what we're talking about now, which is we like people that do great things for us, that give to us, and we still buy from people that we know, like, and trust. You translate that not only into your day-to-day, how you interact with people, like, hold the door for people, like whatever that thing is, translate that to how you structure your business in providing value up front before you take, you will get great success out of that. And that's what's happened in the internet. It's being forced upon us because of all the things we talked about. Tons of content, lots of choice. I'm looking for someone I can trust, for someone that's going to give me value. And if I find that person, like you, Dave, I'm going to buy from that guy. When I'm ready, that's the guy I want to buy from.
Okay, you wrote, Seth, under Valerie Garcia's on that little thing that I used for the teaser of the show, the following quote: "This year is going to be filled with challenges for those who do not adopt a human-focused approach to their marketing." Is it as simple as tweaking your content and your turn of phrase, or is it a change in culture, in mindset that needs to be done? Is it just simple presenting it differently, or is it a reboot culture mindset when you come to humanizing what we do?
So I think it's both, and I think it depends upon the stage of where you are in your marketing evolution. So I'd say across the board, there's three things that need to happen for you to start humanizing it. One, the content is the piece that we've talked a lot about. Two is the customer service, like thinking about all of the processes that one of your customers goes through before they reach you, while they're interacting with you, and when they leave, and trying to reduce the friction in that process so you're a better experience than anybody else. Apple's done, they're the best at that we all know about, but there are lots of companies that do a very good job of that, thinking through things from your customer's perspective. And then on the back end is making sure you're choosing technology that does the same thing. So there's two parts to that. One, consumers use every device imaginable, and they're going to continue to choose different devices that you don't care about or don't know. You need to make sure that they can find the answers to their questions that you're providing on whatever device they choose. Because if you don't, you're going to be in Siberia with your iframed whatever, and no one's going to be able to read it. And then the last part of that is the technology can help you facilitate consistent customer service experiences, because once you identify what the pain points are, like maybe document management is one, like, hey, your customers, depending upon your demographic, they really like paperless signing. You got to implement it, because if you don't, and I'm 28 years old, I don't know any different. I'm not going to meet you to sign that document. I'm going to go do something else. And so you just need to identify in your particular business, what are the pain points? Like, what's that experience? Talk to your customers after they've left. Ask them, what's the worst part of this entire process for you? And if you get enough consistent answers, solve that problem. And technology helps you do some of those things really efficiently once you identify what the issues are.
In this whole thing, Seth, zero moment of truth, humanizing the experience, being found online,
Yeah.
where does the role of what Placer is doing right now fit into that? Because when I hear about some of the things that Placer is doing and the value Placer providing for the cost to the agent, it kind of makes my head hurt because I don't understand how you can do it for the price you guys are doing it for. So let's talk a little dive into what Placer does, and also how hard it is in your journey to simplify things for the agent, because I think it's easy to make things complicated. It's hard to make things simple, and when I look at Placer, I go, it's not all this extra junk we need. It's what we need, where we need it as agents. So talk about how this all flows into what you and Placer is doing.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to divide that into two parts. One is our mission. So two of us, actually three of us in the company, came from a real estate background. The co-founder, Matt Barbet, he's the CEO. While he was in college at BU, he was a commercial real estate agent, and he's a computer science major, engineer, and he was like, this is the most arcane experience ever, trying to help someone find a property that they want, and I don't have a database. I've got a desk and a phone and a piece of paper, right? And what we always thought was possible was to take the efficiencies of technology and give people the tools so they could do a few things. One, technology is cheap. Like, we're now in the age, we used to pay for email. If someone said, hey, I want you to pay for your email service, you would think that they had two heads at this point. Websites are going in that way, because what you need to do once you have your website is you need to promote it. Promote it in the form of creating content, of sharing it, of paying for promotion, whether you pay for advertising, whatever those things are. Getting the website is the baseline. It's table stakes, right? So we want to build a platform that powers agents and brokers all across the world in getting their listings online. How we do that is via scale, right? There's no way to do that if I'm a mom and pop website designer in my little town. That's why I have to charge so much, right? I've got to pay for my overhead. But when you have 100,000 folks that have websites, you can afford to spread out the cost of that over a lot of people and make it less expensive for them. Now, the other part of that is we've taken an approach that we want to integrate with whatever tool that someone already has, because we're all going to have alternative tools that we call legacy that we just love, right? We're all going to use different CRMs. There's not going to be one CRM to rule them all. We're all going to use different CMAs because we do things differently. And what you need is technology to talk to different pieces of technology. So from the very start, that has been crucial to us building the platform. And we integrate with lots of different things because that's just how life is today. On the other side of that, when I think about why we've taken this tact and how we put bumpers on the process of starting a website, is that with too much choice, there becomes inertia. And we see that all the time. Like, you've all have friends that say, hey, I want to launch a website. And then a year later, they're saying, oh, I still want to launch that website, but they haven't done anything. And so over the course of launching the numerous sites that we have, that, hundreds of thousands of sites, we've learned a lot at what people actually do and what they say they want to do. So lots of people say they want all these features, and then they use 10% of what's available. And so on our site, what we've tried to do is make it the onboarding process so simple that my mother can do it. And she is older than the average age of your average realtor, but she can still see. She's still super capable. She's not senile. She can set up a site by following the simple steps that you do to set up a site. Now, once that's done, then there's a whole bunch of things that you can do as an admin, but it's not every plugin in WordPress, because that would just break it, right? And then you'd have a customer service issue. So it's really deciding from a, we call it UX and UI, a user interface perspective, what will get someone success with the least amount of pain. And that's how we build the products and tools that we build.
So just give us an overview, Seth. What are those products? What is it that an agent goes, okay, you know, Playster delivers this value to me every week in the form of an email, or I hear about them. What is it, nuts and bolts? What is it that Playster provides?
Okay. So at Playster, you can sign up for a really beautiful website, either for yourself as an agent or broker, or you can sign up for websites for your entire organization. So we've got brokers that have sites for 1,000 people in their organization. We also have brands that power tens of thousands of websites for their organization. What's really cool about that is if you're just a solo person, you don't want to have to spend a lot of time trying to fake as an engineer, right? You're not an engineer, you're not a developer, you're someone who's trying to grow your business and wear a lot of different hats. We make that really simple and it's really inexpensive. So we talked about pricing. $10 a site if you're not a National Association of Realtors member, $5 a site if you are. It's $5 per month. That's that. If
I mean that almost is like when I go back and I look at what people are paid for sites and all $5 a site, and I know a lot of people that don't have a site that blogging capabilities, all this other stuff. It's unbelievable, and if you don't have a website. If you don't have a website, that's where everything sort of goes back to, isn't it? I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road, is back to your blog. I guess that's what it is now, a website, but it all goes back there now. It's unbelievable pricing.
And there's even a lot more to it than that, because before the show, I try to spend at least some time doing a little bit of homework. Because I don't know Seth, and I, quite frankly, you know, I'm buried over here in Jersey, so Playster was sort of, I sort of heard of that. So I go to Playster.com, and I look, and there's all of this free infographics and content there. I'm looking at it, and, you know, even though I really understand this, provide value first, and then, you know, then you hit them a little later for what you're selling them. And I'm going, I clicked on the first infographic, I'm waiting for the thing to pop up to put in my credit card. And I'm going like, look at all of this content there. I mean, for anybody that's listening, I mean, let's put the website thing aside for a second. If you want to kind of get a gist on social media and what's going on and what you should do step by step, and it's simple, go to Playster.com, and there it is. There's all of this stuff there. Just click on it, and it's there for you to look at. You guys are doing a great job. You're providing value, and there's some cool stuff there.
Thank you very much.
And it comes down to walking the walk. I mean, they are. Like, I love bringing on people that are actually doing the things they say they should. And I'm in 2.5, 3 years following Playster day in and day out, adding tremendous value to my life. So I encourage anyone, like you say, Dave, whether they're looking for a website or just want to improve what they do, Playster is a place to go. Follow them on Twitter and everything. They're phenomenal. So
thank you very much. Thank you.
Seth, before we wrap you up and let you go, because I know you have a heart out, Dave, your takeaway for the show.
Well, I just said it. It's like, before I came on the show, I went there, and there's all this value. I mean, that's it. I mean, we sort of lived this already, you and I, Michael, about giving the service and doing all that ahead of time and providing value. The internet is changed everything, totally flipped it around, you know, because all the people are going to have to get to know you online first before they actually meet you, and it's actually a big benefit. And the thing we always say here, the people that are watching, we're probably preaching to the choir, need to embrace this kind of stuff and understand it, or you're going to be irrelevant, because it's happening.
So Seth, just before we plug how people can get a hold of you, 30 seconds. What happens to an agent who's 20 years old, 30 years old, 40, 50, or 60 years old, who doesn't embrace a human aspect to the way that they market in person and online? What happens?
It just becomes harder and harder to convert, and so you live from paycheck to paycheck, right? You're chasing the next closing before you even have the money to pay your bills. And the thing about building an infrastructure of providing value to people up front is you build a lead pool. I mean, these are people that know you on the web. They don't even need to know you physically, but they know you because you provide value to them. They recommend you, oftentimes without having used you as a service, because they trust you. And it's always been the same. It's like in whatever town you live in, there are people that you don't know very well, but you think that they are of the highest integrity, and you would go, that's a good guy. The web's the same way. You got to use the web in a way that you would want to be treated face to face. Same deal. Doesn't change. Just scalable at that point.
Seth, I can't thank you for all the value you've provided us and our audience. Thank you so much. How do people get a hold of you? How do people get a hold of Playster?
Great. So Playster is easy. It's playster.com, Placester.com. On Twitter, I'm at Seth Stuff. You can find me on Facebook if you just Google Seth Price. On Google, I'm Seth Price. I pretty much show up on all those things. If you enter my name and infographic, I'll probably show up in Google. If you want to see about my speaking and all that stuff, go to sethprice.net. And there you go.
Seth, thank you so much. Appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. Awesome stuff. I completely appreciate all the value you've provided me over the last 2 years.
Thank you very much.
Next week's show is going to be a special episode from the Banff Western Connection. Time either Friday or Saturday, but we will let you know. If you want to be updated, go to mobileagenttv.com. Click on the right-hand side, fill out just to get our video emails. We send them up before every show, or follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated. Our guests are going to be Jeff Turner, Bill Matter, and perhaps one or two other special guests that we still want to announce. So that'll be either on the 30th or 31st. If you have any referrals heading out to the East Coast of the United States, get a hold of Dave. He'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. Any referrals coming up to the West Coast of Canada, get a hold of me, and I'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. And as Melanie Gallia of RE/MAX Fort McMurray wants us to end every show, please tell 5 other RE/MAX agents about Mobile Agent TV. We grow every week. We get to reach out to people like Seth Price. We get to say that this is Season 3 because of all you amazing support that we get from our viewers and our listeners. Thank you so much for all of you. Dave, have a very happy birthday. Stop working. Make sure Vanessa takes you out for a treat or something like that. So thanks, Dave.
Going out for steak tonight. Going out for steak.
Awesome. Happy birthday.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Seth, for the last hour. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you all next week.
Awesome, guys.